Okay, everybody, we're back, and I'm talking to Scott Harris and Kirsten Jordan, and two very top, I like to use the word icons, but people say, don't call me an icon because that makes me sound old.
I'll take it.
I don't agree with that. Anyway, two very successful agents in our business who have proven their success year after year. Thank you both for being here. I want to ask you both, though, initially, because everybody asks me and wants to know when I talk to people like you guys, ask them why they got into this business. They had so many other choices. They could have gone in so many other directions, and maybe some of us did in our past. But we end up in real estate. I know why I did, but why did you?
I got into real estate because I had come back from living abroad for a couple of years, and when I was living abroad, I started doing a sales job, and that was the only job that I could find that was more of a real office job of sorts, because the jobs I had before were like teaching English, making coffees, being a waitress, all that stuff, which wasn't I didn't consider it a real job. And so I got this job while I was living in Italy, and I learned from this. I was selling designs. I was selling licenses to designs for greeting cards and wrapping paper. So literally we're talking like very low priced items. I was selling pictures of Santa Claus and bunny rabbits to greeting card companies. Like we'd go meet with UNICEF that makes the cards. That was what we did. And I learned from that I actually really liked the making money aspect of sales. I liked talking to people. I liked being out and about. And so when I came back to the U.S. after a couple of years, and I realized like I was just going to be broke forever if I lived in Europe. So I came back and brokenhearted because I was living in Italy. So let's just be clear. I was breaking hearts and they were breaking mine. And I got home and I said, what should I do if I want to sell? And my stepfather said, well, if you're going to sell, you got to pick something that's a lot of money, because if you pick a big ticket item, you don't have to sell that many of them, and you'll make a lot of money. And so I picked real estate. I got my real estate license, and that was in 2007. And the rest is, I don't know anything else.
The rest is history.
Except for bunnies and Santa Claus. That's all
I read your backstory a while ago, and it's very impressive, by the way. Oh. And coming from living abroad and doing what you just said you did, impressive. Scott, so with many, many choices as young people, coming out of school or whatever, what made you decide ultimately to get into a real estate career in New York City? I say it forever, if you can do it in New York City, you could do it anywhere.
When I left college, I was actually performing. I was in a band. I like to say it was like a boy band without instruments.
You can say you were in a boy band, okay. That's okay.
And at the same time, I was doing all the business side behind the scenes. So I was putting bands on the road, producing concerts. And when I moved to New York, there was about 6 years in Boston, and I moved to New York. I was trying to figure out what was next. I was very used to doing sales, a lot of sales. I was always doing entrepreneurial stuff. My stepmom is kind of a similar story to yours. My stepmom said, Scott, I think you would be really good at selling real estate. And I was at the bottom. I was at the end of my rope. I had borrowed about $6,000 from my mom. I was like, I do not want to go back to New Orleans.
Yep.
I loved New York. I moved here very intentionally, and I started doing real estate at the beginning of 2003. And it was like all the different things I'd ever done all turned into like this stack of skills that worked perfectly for my business in real estate.
Yeah, this is a business where we can take our individual skills or the skills that we think we have, and we can better fine-tune them and better hone them and become better at what we do. But it takes a lot of passion, and it takes a lot of, whatever to get there every day. Chutzpah, but it takes a lot of us to get there every day. Tell us about, what inspires you every morning to get up, because you are very successful and you've logged in lots of business. You have a team, which we're going to talk about later, but what inspires you in the morning when you get up? You have a family, you've got to face that, you've got to face the outside world of real estate. What gets you going in the morning?
For me, the stuff that I end up visualizing the most, I'm the most excited about, does have to do more with the stuff outside of real estate. So, the speaking engagements, the book deal, we were just both talking about writing a book, the inspirational piece and the kind of like bigger than myself piece. I have 3 children, being an inspiration to them. All of that together kind of is what makes me the most excited, I would say. And I am like a very spiritual person. I love meditation. I love just having the right energies around me and all of that. And I find that has been a really great guiding force for me, because of the fact that there's just it's really hard to do really well if you're not around the right people. And I would say that the older I get, the more I'm trying to cultivate a group of people, even outside of, the business, that are just women that I respect, that have children, that are also trying to be CEOs of their homes and their business. And that's probably what gets me the most jazzed up and excited. And I basically feel like if I'm going to talk about that, I have to have active success in doing something with that. And right now, real estate's the thing.
Actually, you said it perfectly well, because I think the same thing. To be a very grounded person and to be successful, to turn that very grounded person into a successful person in our industry, you have to be happy outside of it. You have to be able to know who you are, bring that to the table every day, and it shows, right? Scott, for you, you get up in the morning, you also have a family. What's the inspiration that gets you out the door in a business sometimes, and we'll talk about it in a minute, like now, where things are kind of questionable, they're not as active or busy as we would like them to be, for a whole host of reasons, but we still have to get up every day, still inspire ourselves every day to get out there and to make it happen for you and for your team members, right?
I feel really blessed that I have a lot of energy. I mean, I wake up like ready to go every single day. And so, when we have people that we want to hire for the team, the first thing we're looking for, are they passionate? Do they have energy?
Yeah.
And I feel really lucky that I have a lot of energy. But part of that is I'm always following the things that I'm most excited about. And it's a lot of creative. I came out of the music business. I like to write music. I like to write. I like to, and over the years, it's like a constant search for what's the thing that I'm really good at, that I can communicate more. And as I've gotten older, it's like, how do I inspire other agents? How do I help the brokerage community? How do I communicate what I believe is the most important thing, which is the people side of the business? So it's like real estate for me is the vehicle to be more of an inspirational leader in the world. And so right now I'm writing a book. What's waking me up right now is 5 a.m, finishing a manuscript for something that's due in August.
Best time of the day to write is in the early morning hours, right? 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
I don't drink coffee.
Whoa. Okay.
So I get a good night of sleep. I meditate, and then I'm ready to go.
I can't wake up in the morning unless
But I
have
do
my
go to
coffee.
bed a little. I go to bed 10-ish. So
Okay.
I don't need. Somebody called this. I'm an elite sleeper. I don't need as much sleep as some
Yeah,
people
I was gonna
do.
say.
I never heard that until very recently, and I'm like, I'm an elite sleeper.
I go to bed at 10 and I'm up, normal hour, but it's like I don't need a lot of hours sleep. But I think also that's, if you feel like you're grounded, if you feel like you've found your place in our industry, it's like kind of almost everything goes. You run a large team, and you've been in the business, if I can quickly calculate, 17, 18 years?
I think more like 15 right
15
now, but
years,
thank you.
okay.
Yeah, it feels like it.
It feels like forever, right?
Feels like
20
forever.
for me.
I don't know anything
so
else.
How do you motivate your team every day? It's one thing to get up and be a motivator to yourself, but now you have a responsibility to keep that success going and to keep the team members inspired, right? How do you do that? Because that, people are people, and everybody is
Right.
very different.
The thing for me is that I actually find it easier to motivate others than sometimes it is to motivate myself.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
like naturally, I love to be a motivational speaker. Like I love to be, a world-renowned life coach. I love that stuff. And so for me, leading a sales meeting with my team once a week or whatever that looks like that's my calling. So for me, I have the agents, when they call me and are like, I'm not doing deals, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, first of all, there's nothing wrong with you. We're all looking at each other like, what the heck is really going on right now? I think that's kind of the way it is. Right. And remember, you guys all came up in a time in the business where things were happening. And so now you're experiencing a natural correction, and it's just a numbers game. And so I think you guys need to all, for example, you need to act with integrity. I'd like to see you actually doing what you say you want by showing the universe that you actually want that outcome by maybe going out less or structuring your weekends in a better way. If you want to crush those open houses, maybe you need to get to bed early on a Saturday night so you can work out before you go to them. I mean, it's like, and obviously these are 1099, agents, so there's only so much I can do, but motivating the agents is the easier part. I actually find, and this is what I was curious about, is between the two of us is actually the structuring of the team. That's where I actually think in some cases for me that's harder, is the who's supposed to do what, getting all these tech stacks to work
Correct.
together, all of that stuff, which
Correct.
Whereas like getting everybody motivated, having fun, getting everybody to laugh, like that's the easy stuff. Pretend, that's fine. It's the like getting the business to function and everybody to be on board with it as you have new members join, and that, I think that's the hardest part of the business for any team over 3 or 4 people, because you're trying to figure out who's supposed to do what and having real boundaries and job descriptions. I think that's the hardest part for me.
Can you ever see yourself going back to the days where you were just you before you had a team and just doing it on your own? Or is like the team...
I'll take this. I was never good at the admin. I have ADHD. I know the things I'm great at, and it's big picture, and it's strategy, and it's brainstorming, and it's energy, and it's problem solving, and it's all the things that, and I really can create a vision for a client and help them build towards that. But when I always knew I could do the things, but gosh, it was such a disaster and a time. Some people are so much better at all of these other things. I have a business, a woman who, my partner, Karen, who's running all the business operations of the team. She is a godsend. She's incredible. And I don't know how, she's a partner. So I don't know how we really have a great delineation of what I do and what she does. We're clear on, this is what you're great at, this is what I'm great at. There's a great book that came out last year called 10X.
Yeah.
Is easier than 2X. 10X is easier than 2X. And it's all about leaning into the things you're great at, that really are great at. I would never go back to being a sole operator. Teams, and what makes teams so great is that I can either or I can help you identify the things that really are special and great about you as a team member, and then do more of that, and let what I think is a very solid structure behind you take care of all the things that maybe are not a good use of your time. Maybe you're a great, whatever it is. We have different people on the team that are better at working on listings. Some are better at working with buyers. The more specialized you can be, you're going to make more money.
I completely agree with that, and I've always said, whether you're talking about real estate or teams or whatever, if you do what you're good at and let others do what they're good at, you're going to find a lot more success. Time running out. Let's switch to social media a little bit, and let's talk about branding. And you, Kirsten, have an unbelievable story when it comes to branding and $1 million listing. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, I watched that show for years. And that last season when they brought you on, it was like a breath of fresh air. All these boys running around. I was like, enough with the boys. Let's get somebody out there, who knows what the hell they're doing also on the female side. And you really killed it. So my question to you is, that's great branding. Did you find that helped you more in business after the show, during the show, or did it just mean nothing?
There's a couple pieces to it, which is, for me, being on the show was a validation point for me that made me step out of my comfort zone. I spent over a decade working on other people's teams as an agent that worked for other agents, as a team member. And those were the years I also was actively, I have 3 children, so I was having babies at the same time. And I don't even know how I did it all, to be honest with you. Every single person who works with me who is an assistant always looks at me at some point and says, how the hell did you do it all before? Because this is insane. Can't even keep up with you. But it pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I realized my calling is really being in front of the camera. I do love it, probably more than anything else. Like I said, the speaking, all that's really fun for me, and it was something that I never gave myself any sort of space for, because as a child, I always felt like that was a job that was never going to make any money, and it was a once in a trillion chance that you make it, and so I should just go figure out something else to do. And I always felt really lost. And so for me, brand or no brand, I think my brand has a long way to go. I think it's been great, and I've been lucky, and I think a lot of it just has to do with talking to the camera and talking about fun topics. But where I really am the most excited is that next place, we're talking about, which is focusing on the stuff I really want to do. And again, my team's kind of in the infancy of sorts, and we're getting that all sorted out, and I can't wait for what's next.
Correct. And social media, we can't get away from the fact that social media today is really such a great part of our business, of our industry. I mean, we're all present on social media. We all see everybody's post. one listing after the next listing after the next building picture, the next this. But it resonates with people.
But you know what? Social media, if all you're doing is just saying, look at my pretty listing, look at my
Right.
pretty listing,
Right.
you might, if you look at TikTok, the real estate posts that get the most views and likes are just
Millions.
tours. But you know what? If you're trying to make a difference, you really have to lean into what are you about? What makes you different? If you look at yourself as a 360 degree
Correct.
person,
Correct.
3D, what do you have to offer? What's your special, what's your message? And what do you have to share? And the more you speak from your own voice, the more it's going to be interesting. And it may be a slower build, but it's going to be people for whom your voice makes a difference. And you can really start to differentiate yourself. And I think that's really important for
It's
people.
what's your differentiator. It's what makes you stand out above the crowd. As I say all the time when I'm teaching real estate, look, what are we, 20, 25,000 agents in this town? Now, of course, the Hollywood, 20% do the business, 80% don't. But there's still all these agents out there trying to find that business. You've got to be able to differentiate yourself and stand out among the crowd. I always say when I teach social media, first question, who are you? And people look at me like, I know who I am. What are you talking about? Who are you? You don't know who you are.
But also,
Because until you find out who you are, understand who you are, understand what your, purpose is, you're not going to be able to get the next person to feel that about you. Therefore, you're going to be just one in a million and you're going to go off, in the sunset like a lot of other people. You tell people who you are, and they're going to recognize you.
But the other thing I think that, to your point is it's actually it's a very long build, and it's kind of like a marathon. And I think that everybody's looking for a quick fix. Everybody asks me like, do you get leads from $1 million listing?
Yeah.
Do you get leads from your Instagram? And I'm like,
Well, that's all people think about.
I'm like, I don't really get that many direct leads from that. I actually get more leads from my sphere that now continually sees me and gives me more credibility.
You're staying in front of people.
Staying in front of people,
Sustained,
which I
that's
wasn't
right.
doing before.
That's
And
right.
I think, that is really what it is. And then the other point about the brand, which I think so many agents that are like, they toy with this idea of starting their own brokerage or starting their own whatever. The only thing you really own is your brand. And social media is still free. So like you can, for free, create something that is only yours. So it's like, why? And you can also make a bunch of mistakes and delete your whole account and start fresh if you want to. There's no real risk, ultimately, unless you're really a buffoon. And I think there's just
try
still
different
a little
stuff. I mean, in 2022, I was doing kind of a general interest podcast that it was fun. I got to talk to people, but it wasn't making a difference in the way that I wanted to. And at the beginning of this year, we launched something that I'm calling The Pursuit of Home, which I'm going to put a book out next year. It's the same name. And it's about the people side of the business. What are they going through? What's the emotional side of their experience as home buyers? What are they doing that's different or special? What's that little thing that an audience can learn from? And then bringing in experts that have a unique perspective to kind of bring it all home.
100%.
And that is something that people care about. And like, I love it. It's about giving back. And not everybody, that's not important to everyone, but I love being able to give back.
Most people don't even understand that fact, and I totally agree with you. My show was running 10 years. I've been podcasting before I even understood what a podcast was, okay? When I was recruited, I said, what the hell is a podcast? And I say that on record all the time. But when you want to talk about visibility, more than whenever I post a listing of mine or an apartment of mine or whatever, I get more visibility because of the podcast aspect of our business. Why? And I think you both kind of touched on it. Because it gives people a little snippet here and a little snippet there of what our industry is all about, where they can get information. Maybe they don't always listen, but they know where they can go and get information about a very, very popular industry in our country, in our city. So for me, that's raised my bar. I mean, I don't even know how high, but like Kirsten said, I mean, you get leads from it. I mean, I don't know,
But you know what? I would actually.
It's a collective consciousness.
I would say one thing, and it's sort of a testament to you. And if your business is growing, it means somehow you're adding value.
Well, that's it.
And so if you're giving, whether it's on TV or a podcast, or you're doing something that is of value to people, and you start to see your business grow, you're like, let me do a little bit more of that. Something that feels like you're doing. You can feel, you know the difference in your business day when you're making a few phone calls, and if you're like, something happened today that I actually think I got something done. Maybe you're not sure, there was no direct answer, but you feel like you're getting something done, and you see it at the end. It builds over time.
It builds, and we all know it because eventually something comes out of it. And we're so out of time that I have to end it here, but you know what, guys? I would love to talk to both of you again for a lot longer. Great conversation, and continued success to both of you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.